Hello, everyone, and welcome to another inspiring episode of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. Before we dive into today's conversation, I wanted to take a moment to thank you for your continued support. It's because of this amazing community that I'm able to keep sharing stories of resilience, hope, and recovery. I would like to remind you also of my book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened. It's been empowering stroke survivors and caregivers with stories and practical steps towards growth and healing after stroke for 12 months now. If you haven't picked up your copy yet, you can find it on Amazon or at recoveryafterstroke.com/book. Now, let's talk about today's guest. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Mark Vega, an embolic stroke survivor whose journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Mark faced his first stroke at age 51 and went on to navigate a second, more significant stroke, all while rebuilding his life and mindset. In this episode, Mark shares his powerful story of resilience, the lessons he learned about gratitude and determination, and how he turned adversity into strength. Let's get started. Mark Vega, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Bill. Good to see you and good to be seen, I suppose.
Indeed. Thank you, mate. Tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
Active professional, was 51 years old. High metabolism, had it for a long time. High metabolism, active, very physically active and otherwise. And one day I lost my, I went to instruct a new intern in my office and found myself searching for words. Thought to myself, man, I need a whole pot of coffee. Something's wrong here, right? I just couldn't come up with words. I was trying to tell an intern to just simply add photographs to a big photo shoot we'd done over the weekend that we had done to fix up some homes at the time that were going to utilize solar power in Southern California. This is 2015. And that's a simple enough set of instructions, just take the photos and put them in the right folders, add them to the website. Simple, easy. But after a few minutes of trying to describe to this young intern what I wanted him to do, I realized, okay, something's not working here. So I asked my operations person to kind of take over. I said, I need a whole pot of coffee and I'll be back. And then walked out of the door and uttered words that I hadn't uttered before. And that was, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to go straight to the doctor. And I'm not sure what words I used, but they understood I was leaving. So went to the doctor and have a full TED Talk version of this long story, for some time. But the version was, I went to the doctor. Went to my internist right away. He didn't know what was wrong. Seemed everything would be okay, but I just missed my words. I wasn't, I took the fast test. My face was fine. My eyes were fine. My speech wasn't slurry and I could pick up my arms. And so the traditional indicators for you might be having a stroke, we didn't see. So he said, well, take this baby aspirin and I'll figure out, we'll line up an MRI sometime later today or something. Okay. By the time I get home, my my wife had done some research and said, you had a stroke. I'm certain of it. I'm like, oh, I didn't have a stroke. He would have told me I had a stroke. He said, nah, we're not sure. So I go home and I get to the house and she calls for an ambulance to take me to the hospital. I'm sitting out on a bench out in front of the in my front yard, and ambulance comes around and the paramedics come in and said, where's the patient? I stood up in my front yard and looked to the side and realized, oh, that's me. I'm the guy. So I'm talking a mile a minute because it seemed as though if all I had to tell them was like, my wife's in the house, I need to go, take me to the hospital. I think I had a stroke. But what I said was something like, you guys are great. in the house, my wife, uh, I'm here to the hospital is like, let's go. So that's what I told the paramedics. The paramedics were a little confused, thinking I might have been on crack or something. I'm not
Mm.
sure. My wife comes out and said, he had a stroke, but his doctors said he'll get an MRI later. Just take him in. Okay. So we go in and go to the hospital and in Los Angeles and have to wait a long time, a very long time. I'm on a gurney and they do a little checking, but there's no MRI. Nothing happens until late at night, 9, 10 o'clock. The doctor who had previously scheduled me to have an MRI at 6 or so, he canceled that because now I was checked in or I was at the hospital in the emergency room. Did the MRI, but they wouldn't tell me the results. They checked me into the hospital and said they're going to tell me in the morning. So in the morning, a woman nurse comes in and says, okay, well, good news and bad news. The good news is doctor's coming, but he can't come till about 9:30. And I look at my watch and it's, I don't know, 8 in the morning. I'm like, okay, great. That's, an hour. And she said, no, 9:30 at night. I'm like, what? I think this is insane, Bill. I don't never heard of such a thing. And all I know for sure is my words are still disappearing. Like I don't know what is happening. I feel fine, but I'm speaking in this truncated manner because it's like the Matrix when those little green numbers go, right? I was imagining diction of words in the dictionaries, open up the pages, just disappearing. So that wasn't acceptable to me. I didn't know what I was going to do, but this seemed crazy, right? So a little bit like Liam Neeson in some really cool movie, I stand up out of bed and I take off my hospital gown and I literally rip out the EKG, rip out all the
Ooh.
monitors, I put my clothes on and I just storm out of the hospital. I'm on the 5th floor or something, and I just walk past everybody. I'm consciously trying to make eye contact with people so somebody can tell me, stop, help. But I'm just kind of frustrated. I leave and I take the car, I get out, I start walking down the street, Sunset Boulevard. So clearly I'm not exactly aware of what exactly is happening, right? But I'm walking. So I I call my wife and I said, I left the hospital because they don't know what they're doing. She's like, wait, what? Where are you? What did you do? I left the hospital. She said, they don't let you leave. I said, well, I left. I gotta go. I think I gotta go. And she's, you have to call your doctor. Do something. Call the doctor right away. She calls the hospital meanwhile and looks for me. And the hospital says, well, we can't find him. And she's like, can't find him. What happened? Where is he? What's the deal? So she's super upset. Meanwhile, my internist, I can't even on the phone. I can't even tell. I get a message and says, if it's an emergency, press 1. So I look at my phone and I hang up and I call my wife back. And I'm like, is this an emergency? Do I press 1 right now? And she said, yeah, yeah, do that. So I call back the doctor. He gets on the phone. He's like, go directly to Cedars-Sinai. Here's the guy I'm going to connect you with. Don't, that hospital's terrible. Just go to Cedars. So I go into Cedars and, but I don't go to the hospital. I go right to the doctor's office, into the neurologist's office. I bang on the door, walk in, and I say, hey, I'm a new guy, but I just had this thing. I just walked out of the hospital. I'm blah, 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 blah. At this point, Bill, they also know I'm a lawyer because I must have said that. I identify myself. So all we know is this neurologist who's one of the leaders of the organization, of the group, right? He's got this crazy quote unquote patient who says he's a quote unquote lawyer, who says he just walked out of the hospital and he thinks he's had a stroke. He doesn't know this is a candid camera episode or some other kind of reality prank show. He doesn't know for sure, but he lets me in. Doctor, hey, I'm only talking fast because I'm losing my words and I don't know what to do. I don't know exactly if I'm losing words or not, but it feels like I'm losing my words. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, okay, okay. But he doesn't trust anything, right? Well, right about on cue, bing, my wife calls my phone. So I'm able to say, here, talk to her. And the doctor's like, oh, this is bizarre. But of course, we meet all kinds, don't we? Don't we meet all kinds? So he picks up the phone. Yes, doctor, it's true. He just walked out of Presbyterian Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital, and they tried to check him in last night. They've got results, but they won't give him the results. So the doctor said, okay, hang on. So my wife had the guy's phone number somehow. I don't even know how. My new neurologist calls the guy, says, hey, this is Dr. Blah, blah, blah. I'm at Cedars. My patient, Mark Vega, is right in front of me. The guy, did you do the test? The guy says, yes. My new doctor says, go to line 46 and 47 or something like that. Read off the data, blah, 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 blah. So he reads off the data, whatever that was. I don't understand it. Didn't matter, but it felt like this guy was finally listening. And I finally had somebody pay attention to what I was doing. And I was kind of, for just the first moment, I started to think maybe I don't have to speak even as quickly as I'm speaking to you right now, Bill, because finally, maybe those words will stop disappearing. But I don't know that for sure, but I think that's possible, right? So,
Let's take a quick pause here. Before we dive back into Mark's incredible journey and insights about embolic stroke recovery, I want to talk about how you can help support the podcast. This podcast has been a labor of love from the start, and I've been covering the costs myself to bring these episodes to you. But to keep it going and achieve my goal of reaching 1,000 episodes, I would like your help. If these episodes have made you feel less alone or glad that you found the show, you can make a difference by helping ensure that future stroke survivors have the same experience. Your support on Patreon makes it possible to continue recording and sharing stories that remind stroke survivors they're never alone on this journey. Please consider becoming a Patreon today. Every contribution helps me keep creating content that connects, educates, and inspires. Visit patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke to learn more. Now let's get back to Mark Vega and hear more about his experience and the lessons he's learned along the way.
he gets the data and he looks at me, and my wife's on the cell phone, right? In the ring. He looks at me, he says, well, you definitely had a stroke. You might have had a major stroke. And I'm so glad that your doctor gave me that baby aspirin, because I can't even tell you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So I'm going to get you checked in real quick and we're going to take care of blah, 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 blah. Good. I get checked in. Ultimately, I'm there for about a week, right? Intensive care for a minute. And then they transfer me to the stroke ward. Ischemic stroke on one side of my brain. They determined it is ultimately, though, prognosis is embolic stroke of undetermined source, the all-elusive ESUS. Now, they say, Bill, that maybe 3% of the people, of the thousands of have strokes every year, are captured in that 3% range, right? So that means every year that's from, could be 1,500 to a couple thousand people like me, like you, like people every year. Like, okay, what that means is they don't really know what caused it. They don't know how to prevent it. They can't guarantee that it won't happen again. Those things we know for sure. None of those are very self-satisfying, right? We're not very satisfied with that at all. However, I'm alive, right? And within a couple of days, the words stopped disappearing. I was able to speak more deliberately. I could always speak deliberately and slower, Bill, but I just was concerned. It was the Matrix. I'm like, I get
the words out while you can.
Yeah, I get paid to speak, and the words are important to me. And yes, I can write, but speaking is important, right? So after a few days, I sensed that the words leakage had stopped. So I didn't get back things, but it just felt like the matrix stopped, right? So the letters were no longer falling off the page. But at that time, I flipped through the encyclopedia or the dictionary, and still there were big spots of white spots on the dictionary. I was like, well, I don't know what was there. It looks like it was, because it's in alphabetical order in my mind. I can imagine that some pieces I could tell what was right before it and what was right after it. And later on, my confirmation bias or my own research, Bill, let me know that, in fact, that's kind of how the brain rewires itself anyway. If there is holes on the page, right, the synapses fire above and below and all around. And so all of a sudden, the neural networks kind of reconnect, right? It doesn't happen right away. And I didn't know anything about this at the time it was happening. Obviously, we all have to learn through our own lived experiences, but that seems to be what was happening. So that's just the first one. Can I keep going with my story? Man. I don't want to stop. I don't want to, if you're falling asleep, you're bored about it. I want to tell you, because you've heard a lot of stroke stories, man. Right?
I had one delivered quite like this, man. Keep going.
Listen, I'm 51 years old. And the doctor's like, well, that's you're kind of young for this kind of a stroke to happen. Doesn't make sense. So it wasn't hemorrhagic. There wasn't some event that happened that we could identify, like boom, blood vessel burst or something. It was nothing like that. I
Mm.
also didn't have any kind of history of anything in my family that we, as far as we could tell, and all the research and study that we'd done, right? So, okay, well, I'm alive. I'm grateful. But I don't know if you did the same. I bet it is, because I also had a business at that time, and and it's the same business I now have today, right? Just like you, still on the grind, still hustling. But when the first stroke happened, all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, but my instincts were to make my footprint small, because I still had to keep the business going and support my family, and right. But I had to really, I just kind of I just let things get small,
Drink a little.
or intentionally did so. So the number of personnel I had, it shrunk, and the number of active outreach and collaborations and side hustles and other jobs and other work things I were doing, I just kind of let them go on their own. I just
Mm.
couldn't. And there was no doctor told me to do this. Nobody in my life was saying, "Keep doing more, Mark." And nobody was really saying you shouldn't do anything, because you know why? Just if this is your experience, because nobody knows.
Mm.
Nobody really knows. You don't know about stroke when they realize it's not a heart attack and it's a stroke. When the moment people realize it's your brain, they, in my experience anyway, they want to be supportive. They want to be helpful. But in the back of their head, they're kind of like, if they couldn't see you react, your reaction, I imagine all my friends going, "What? His brain?" But they don't say that.
They
Your
disassociate.
brain? Oh my God, that's so messed up. Oh God, I guess you can't do anything for the rest of your life. You know,
They
in your head, in
disassociate.
my head, I was like, I didn't want my clients to have that reaction. Didn't
Mm.
want my family to have that reaction. Didn't want my friends and neighbors to have that reaction. So I just made my footprint small. And I had a core group of people who were family members and some important clients and people who had known me all along. And, you know, their reaction initially, some of those clients, my closest clients who are still clients today, their initial reaction was, "Thank God, at least when now you're not going to talk as much." That's kind of an upside for me, they would say, right? So, we took that in stride and really kept a good smile on our faces. And I thought I had to, in the process of me making my footprint small, my business small, like I didn't want to make mistakes, right? I didn't want to do anything that was going to mess up the business. But at the same time, it's possible, though we did 8,000 tests, it's possible that stress and other levels might have contributed to some of this, right? We can never really determine exactly, but in order to prevent that, we just get rid of anything that is extraneous, right? That's what we try to do. One thing I hadn't done though, and my neurologist was suggesting this, as long as the cardiologist too. I used to run when I was much younger, but I hadn't done so for years because my knees got. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and I hurt my knees not in active duty, not in wartime at all, but just I was deployed in South Korea, and I hurt both of my knees and had surgeries, and so okay, my running days might have been over, maybe, right? So but the doctors were like, "Mark, you should start working out again, but not like with lifting weights necessarily. Why don't you just start walking?" And I thought, walking, me walk that? I felt like I'd poke pencils in my eyes. No, I'm not a walker. What do you mean, in a mall? I'm a young guy. I'm like, what? I can't, that's not the image I need or want. And I don't see myself that way. Right. And they laughed and they said, "Okay, there, okay, hot shot. Well, what do you think?" I'm like, "Well, can I run?" And he's like, "Well, it's your heart and you got." I'm like, "I get it." I had a cardiologist at that time, not because I had a heart attack, but because remember, we in embolic stroke of undetermined source, we don't really know what causes stroke. So the neurologist and cardiologist and my internist, like I had a little team now of doctors scratching their head, figuring, I don't know, you're kind of an anomaly there. Remember the first time I saw you, you busted down my door and started talking a mile a minute, telling me you just walked out of a hospital as my neurologist, right? And he said, "So remember, that made an impression on me." So part of the energy and the vibe and exactly who you are, you're still that guy, Mr. Vega. You're still that guy. I'm like, "Well, good, good." So even if that's the, first impression of you to me, doctor, neurologist, I'm okay with that. "So can I run?" He says, "Well, you'll go slow. You'll figure it out, but yeah, go slow." So, Bill, that's what happened. After many years, I decided to I was going to try to run. And I thought, what better way? Because I used to run. What better way? Like I'd never run a marathon. Like, wow. How about if I run a marathon? Can I do that? He's like, well, of course you can. Do anything you want. Okay, I'm gonna try it. So this is stroke is June 2015.
First one.
By August 2015, I'm ready to like mobilize, ready to kind of get some real exercise. I'm ready to do something, right? I got to do something. And I still have a small footprint from a business perspective. I don't know if you did this, Bill. I saw some of your recovery photos when you were like trying to get ambulatory again.
Mm.
I felt that the one thing I could control was my movement, my body movement. And I've now since then have come across a lot of stroke survivors that I've talked to, all different types of stroke survivors and many different modalities, many different levels of ambulatory abilities, et cetera, right? And so I was really grateful because at the time, my brain, my stroke just impacted in such a specific element of impact that I was grateful for everything else, right?
Mm.
So running made sense to me. And I had run for a long time. And at the time, I'm 51, that's not old, but it certainly wasn't that young either, right? So I'm not going to be running races to win races, but just the idea of running in the first instance, like that should be enough, right? That should be good. So I do it. I start to train. And I see the Los Angeles Marathon 2016 is on Valentine's Day, 2016, February 14th. Oh, right? Come on. That's an aspirational thing. I'm in Los Angeles, happens to have a LA Marathon in a couple of months. I'm there, man. I'm in it. I'm going to try. I'm going to do it. So I get a coach and I go online and I figure out what I'm supposed to do, what I'm not supposed to do. And I start. And it took a long time to get going because at first, initially, I guess, because I was monitoring my heart rate, I had to actually walk. I had to walk enough so that I could start to walk faster so my heart wouldn't go crazy, right? So I started to train and really embrace the idea of the word training. I was in the U.S. military and the Army, and we ran road guard. I ran all kinds of exercises, but that's a very different scenario of training. That you're training, trying to learn how to cooperate with 125 people all moving in the same direction. Very different from just going out there for your own health and getting out and running. So I run, I do all the programs on January 10th. So listen, I'm almost a month away from the marathon. Bill, I feel so good. My physical footprint for my business hasn't expanded because I'm still really questioning because it just had happened, right? I'm just grateful that I didn't lose clients and, but I just didn't want to pretend like I knew more than I knew about these strokes, right? We're very leery. Didn't want to talk to much anybody to say this happened or that happened. And certainly as a lawyer, I discovered this. There's a lot of lawyers who are kind of closeted. They're quiet about ever having a stroke. Why? Because they're lawyers.
Yeah.
They don't want to tell the world that their brain had some kind of anomaly. But luckily, you and I can tell them, and you've told the world a lot. You inspire people, you communicate well with them. But really, the brain is so fascinating. And it's possible to injure your brain so significantly that it takes years for that brain to start to come back.
Indeed.
But for the vast majority of brain injuries, that's not true. We have extra brain. We just not, right? So you just got to give the chance and time to rewire the little black skid marks, right? So that stroke had a, skid mark over my ear. If you look in the MRI, like, oh, there it is. It doesn't go away. It doesn't get better. It doesn't become not black, but the wiring, synapses, everything just rewires around it. No problem, right? I like that. So it's a month before the LA Marathon, right? Valentine's Day 2016. Are you excited? I'm so excited. Just reliving it. It's so fun. A month before, I don't know if you run it all or do training, but when you run a marathon or a long distance run, right? Usually about a couple of weeks and sometimes a month before, you start what's called a taper. Now you still have to exercise with the same amount of intensity, but for a few weeks before the race, you reduce the quantity of training. So you might run 20 miles and then you're going to go, to 10 miles and 8 miles and 6 miles and 3 miles. While you get there though, you're not slowing down the intensity, but the quantity of training you slow down. So a month before my 26.2 mile first marathon ever in the history of ever, I'm going to be running on Valentine's Day. Like, what a great story in my mind. I'm going to do it. I will have done it. Bill, I tackled it. I'm going to do it. A month before that, I do this long run, about 20 miles. and feeling great. Never felt so good, really, physically and mentally, just all good. And I was on a, this was a, that was a long run on a Saturday. Next day on Sunday, January 11, 2016, I'm fixing myself some lunch, having a salad somewhere on my lunch counter, kitchen counter. And I reach down to pick up a mug, pick up a cup, and like this, I can do it this way. No problem. But then I reached to get this cup on the counter and I just knocked it over, like on the floor. Luckily, there was no water in it. Like, okay, what? I don't even notice. I just knocked it on the floor. And I bent down to pick it up I bent down to pick it up and I see I see, now unblur my background for a minute. I see my hands. I reach down to pick up the cup and my hands are like this on the floor. So I kneel down on the floor and I'm still in this moment. In that moment, I'm still not realizing what I'm doing. I mean, I don't realize that this is the things I'm actually doing like this. I'm trying to get the cup. And I say to my daughter who's in the house is filled with people. I don't know why, but anyway, it was. Right, yell at my daughter, hey, baby, can you come in here and help me? I just dropped the cup, right? But she doesn't hear me say that. My daughter hears me say, baby,
Oh God.
and she comes into the kitchen and she's like, Dad, you are such a goof. And she walks out, with her phone in her hand.
Oh,
Meanwhile, I'm on the floor. I knelt down, and the next thing I realized, Bill, I can't stand up. So not only can't pick up the cup, but I'm kneeling on the floor. Now, at this moment, I still don't know that anything's happening. I just know I can't pick up the cup. And my wife she comes sliding into the frame in the doorway, right? We're in the kitchen. And she's got her phone on her ear. And so she slides into frame with her phone up into her ear. It's almost like Tom Cruise when he slides into the frame of that movie, Risky Business, when he had a comb brush, a hairbrush, and like he's going to sing like a microphone. She slides in the frame with her thing with the phone in her ear. And she runs toward me onto the floor and says, Mark, shh, shut up. You're going to scare everybody. And I'm like, I just dropped the cup. What are you talking about? But I don't say that. I say, she's like, shut up. Don't say any words. I'm like, what? She said, Mark, you had another stroke. And I'm like, I didn't have a stroke. I dropped the glass. I can't pick up the glass. But she hears me. So she freaks out. She puts her hand over it. And like, so violent for just picking up a cup, right?
covers your face.
She grabs onto my arm. She says, come. She says yells to my daughter, hey, honey, come in here. I got to help your dad for a second. So she comes in and they get under my arm and they sit me on the chair. And again, I'm like, I just dropped a cup. And both of them hear me say, bizarre. So I put my head in my hands for a second, put my hand on the table, just a couple seconds, right? Happened. Next thing I know, within those 3 seconds, I swear, paramedics are busting through my door, like full gear, firemen with full gear, like in front. And I'm thinking, was this a setup? Because that just happened 4 seconds ago. What is going on? Comes in through the front door. Mr. Vega, we understand you. We think you had another stroke. And understand you had a stroke 6 months ago. And I'm like, I didn't have a stroke. I'm fine. I just dropped the glass. And then the paramedics hear me say my explanation. And they're like, oh my
boy.
God. So I'm looking at their eyeballs. I'm looking at their reaction, Bill, just like yours. And they're looking at me like their reaction is, like this. They're like, and like in my mind, I'm like, don't talk. What do you guys, what's going on, man? What is going on? So I go to stand up and they're like, they put my hand on my shoulder, just sit there, Mr. Vega, just hang on. It's like, okay. Calls and he says, Mr. Vega, against medical advice, you're going to send me away, but you have to tell me to go away because it's against medical advice. I'm telling you, we need to take you to the hospital. You had another stroke. I didn't have a stroke. Anyway, I stand up. They can't stop me by this point. I stand up and I go over to the counter and I pick up a Kleenex. I feel like I got to blow my nose for someone. I pick up blow my nose. And when I do that, I can't, I'm like this, blowing my
Covering your hands
nose,
to your face.
watching me, just like I still don't know anything's going on. I don't even see myself like this. I blow my nose. And when that happens, I did sense like a little bit of clarity in my head, like, oh, like when you go above, when you're in flight and your ears start popping when you're high
Uh-huh.
above in a high elevation, felt like that. But next thing I know, paramedics got a phone in his hand. Mr. Vega, we've got the nurse on the phone from Cedars. We believe he spoke with you 6 months ago. So I take the phone. I'm like this. I'm like, that's me. Hello, huh? He's like, Mr. Vega, we think this is Joe, blah, blah, blah. I saw you 6 months ago when you had your first stroke. So we believe you've had another stroke. Now I'm against medical advice. You can tell these paramedics go away, but Ms. Vega, I think you had a stroke. I think you ought to come see me. So for the first time ever, Bill, as I got the phone in my ear, I see the paramedics. I see my family's concerned faces. For the first time ever, I realized my hands dangling on a fucking phone. Like, it was ridiculous. But I realize everything happened, and I say something like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm so sorry. Thank you, thank you. Let's go." So for the first time, I hear that language I just spoke,
Uh,
and I can hear that it's messed up, but I can understand what I'm saying. And at that moment, they could understand it too. So they got me took me to Cedars, went in there quickly, and ending this story. So on the other side of my brain, there's a stroke twice as big as the first one.
oh,
Other side of my brain, first one, there's a skid mark about the width of my pinky. Second one's a skid mark about the width of my thumb by the other ear. And same thing, ischemic stroke, embolic stroke of undetermined source. They still don't know what it is. But I'll tell you this, Bill, and we're almost to the end of the story for now, at least the story of the stroke itself. They added another doctor for me, this time a blood guy. So now I got a whole team. Like, I've never had a team of what? This is insane. Anyway, I had turned 52, so now I'm 52. And remember, it's like a month. This will be right before the marathon.
mm,
So I feel good. I feel good. So I recovered. There was no word loss, and again, the artifacts were minimal. They existed, but at the time, I didn't sense any of that. But the neurologist grabs me on the shoulder and says, "Mr. Vega, listen to me. Had you not been exercising, had you not been working and really maintaining an observation of both your metabolism and your health, your heart, both your cardio." And your steady state activities, that second stroke, it would have killed you. He had his hand on my shoulder. I said, "Oh, okay, thank you, thank you, thank you." And he shakes me, Bill. He shakes me. "No, Mr. Vega, if you had not been exercising the way you had been exercising, and that second stroke hit, you would be dead." First time ever in the history of ever, I shut up. I could hear a pin drop because for the first time ever, Bill, I heard him. I heard him. I heard what he said. I heard it, and I couldn't. I heard it. There was no doubt about it. I heard what he said, and I have to listen to it. Right now, I'm going to stop because this is crazy. Been going on for too long, but I want to show you something. I did start to recover, and by May of 2016, everybody, the doctors are like, "Yeah, you can start training again. You can run again if you like. You're ready. We're ready for that." Okay. Can I run a marathon? Sure. When can I run a marathon? I don't know. What do you mean? I said, "No, when? I got to train, so I can't like when could I do it in October?" Like the guy, "Nah, that's not in October." "Can I do one in November?" He says, "Yeah, I think you know about November." So at that moment, first time ever in the history of ever, I looked up at the phone, like November marathons, and I see, oh my God, New York. Feels like the biggest marathon in the world. I never run a marathon yet. Why not New York? I said, "Can I do New York?" And he says, "Okay, yeah, sure, you can do New York." I'm like, "Okay, I'm doing New York." So I trained and trained and trained, was very happy to do that. And happily, by November 6th, 2016, took me a long time, but I ran across that finish line and there was nobody around, just me, but I ran across that finish line, Bill, and I sobbed. I was so satisfied, so happy that it all came together and nothing, it didn't, and clearly it didn't kill me. And
Yeah.
then I'll just do one quick little display if you can see that. So I went from running no marathons at all to 2016. I ran the
Oh,
New York City Marathon. I have since run the New York City Marathon twice. I've run LA a couple of times. I've also run ultra marathons, and most recently, just the last weekend, I ran a trail marathon that I really, really love. So I've got a 50K on the schedule. First time ever, I'm going to run a 50 miler. And I'd like to do 100K. So when I turn 62, I want to run 62 miles. And on my bucket list is a 100 miler. Now that is really my stroke story. It's all about the strokes, and none of this would be happening had each of those steps not been taken. So on one hand, Bill, I really apologize for taking up so much time to tell the story, but on the other, I appreciate that it feels like this platform, more than any other platform in the history of platforms, right? This is the place you get to tell the stories, right?
absolutely,
Okay.
man. It is
Okay.
really important to set the scene and to hear your energy and the way you go about things, because without the whole thing comes together, it makes sort of it paints a perfect picture of who you are, like who they're dealing with, what kind of a person they're dealing with when you turn up to a hospital. I There's so many familiar parts of that story to my story. I go to the hospital the third time. I tell them I'm having a stroke. Just put me into the MRI machine. Don't worry about all the paperwork. Don't do any of that stuff. Um,
Right.
uh, shrinking the business down and just kind of keeping it just skeleton staff, just sort of
Right.
ticking over. A couple of important clients helping me just cover some of the costs, pay a few of the bills, just keep me active, keep the brain ticking over. That's familiar. Um, Being in really good health afterwards and just feeling great, and then starting to exercise and riding bikes and all that kind of stuff. And then the next one happens. The whole thing sounds familiar. Um, that the part that I want to understand is, what kind of a guy are you with regards to your probably been you've been in dangerous combat zones. I imagine, well, perhaps you've been in dangerous combat zones. Had you as a Marine?
No, no, no. I served the U.S. Army during the Cold War. So I was in South Korea for
Okay.
during the Cold War. It was in the early 80s. And so there was no active theater of engagements
Okay.
except for Lebanon. There was a small one and Grenada. So there was no active theater of war at the time. But you woke up, you trained, you
Yeah.
ran in PT every day. So you're in a constant state of readiness, but very, very, very different from many of my colleagues and veteran friends who have
Yeah.
PTSD and
Yeah.
significant PTSD. So I had the great fortune of not suffering through any PTSD with respect to separation or involvement in the military.
Yeah. And I imagine at that age anyway, you're not thinking about the possibility that you're going to die. You're thinking, you're bulletproof mostly at that age. I imagine, to an extent. I know what you're
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
or what
yeah.
you're
Yeah, it was
participating in, but you're not expecting it to ever happen to you. But
right.
at 51, had you ever considered this thing that happened to you as a serious health issue? And that, because I did at 37, the first time I kind of thought I might not be around in 6 months, like actually thought that, and it sunk in. Did you ever have that thought?
Uh,
Or is just not the
I
Mark
love that
Vega thing?
question. I love the question, but the reason it's so good is because you've had multiple strokes. And I have a good friend who I will introduce you one time. His brand is Sean Enton is his name, and his brand is the Stroke Hacker.
Oh, yeah.
And he got choked out in an MMA accident in 2013, I think. And so had one stroke, but it really is debilitating. His left side's all messed up still to this day. And he practices. He's really a good human being. He had one. So we knew each other long before then, but didn't then we fell out of touch. And then after I had my strokes, I realized I got back in touch with him and realized he had a stroke.
Uh-huh.
So now the joke is though, because I had two and he's had one. So every time I see him, he's like, well, you had two. And he's, yeah. So how about this, Bill? because we got to keep it light, right? So I asked Sean that if for some reason, if I stroke out at the third stroke and I'm gone and you're still alive, Sean, I want you to present when I die. I want you to go up to the podium and I want you to say, Mark always said that no good joke starts with, well, after my third major stroke. But here you are. You're living proof. You're a third. You have three. I can't believe it. So I love the question because at what point in our lives do we, think on existential elements of our lives? Right?
Mm,
When do we say we've had enough, and are we ready to go or never want to go? Right?
mm,
So at 51, I can proudly say after that first stroke that it was in my mind it was an anomaly. I don't know what it was. The fact that medical science couldn't tell me what it was, if it was going to happen again. I'm like, well, okay. I changed everything though. I changed my
mm,
diet. I mean, I'd already been at high metabolism and I've already done a lot of detoxing and changing diets just for one way or another. So I'm always pretty active. Who you see right now is this guy, right? I've kind of always been that guy. But I took it more serious in that, well, thank God I'm alive. Don't want to leave. I had young kids. I don't, obviously, I'm so grateful that I'm still here. And so I did think, man, I want to do everything I can to keep just doing things right. I don't want to mess it up.
mm,
And that would include like training and running. Like, it's like formally when you commit to a training schedule with a marathon or a race or other types of athletic events too. But because I had an event, I could keep my promises to myself. I don't know about you, but both in business and in life, when I do that, I'm going to be okay because then I can trust the training. I've made promises to myself, no matter what happens then out in the universe, at least I kept the promises to myself. I
yep,
kept showing up. I kept
yep.
bringing it, right? So I'd have to say that was kind of my attitude after the first one. But
The
after I
second
trained for
one.
that marathon, and the other thing the blood doctor told me is like, there's no way you're running this marathon. You're not running at all. We got to figure this out. Remember, it would have killed you. No, no, Mr. Vega, you would be dead. So
Mm,
after that conversation, that's when I realized, Bill, okay, I've got to look at this differently. I didn't think, and I think this is the point of your question. I didn't think at any moment that I was cavalier about how things happen or what's going on in my life or how I treated the stroke. I never did. But after the second one, I realized, okay, I don't know enough about this. I don't know what this is.
mm,
And it was not very comforting, my friend, to have a team of doctors to tell me, right, first words out of the mouth, well, we don't, we got to learn more about this. I'm like, what? You don't know either? Like, it's enough that I don't know, but somebody should know, right? Anyway, so that was my sense of things. That once after the second one happened, then everything I did in my life was seen through the filters of both of those strokes. So I
mm,
have the chance, like this time, to be able to talk to you, tell you the story. If you tell the story of any one, it's fun and I can talk about it. It's interesting. But no, for me, it was the impact of having one unexpectedly, training and doing everything I could to just be proud of myself that I survived one. Then somehow, was it something I did that brought on the second stroke? And as the blood doctor was like, no, if you wouldn't have been training, you'd be dead. That's how big the second one was.
mm,
But because you were training, you're alive, and we're still trying to figure that out.
mm,
And I wish I could, I did so many tests. I don't know if you did this after more strokes. After the second one, I had more doctors and I had more tests were run on my system than anything because then we had data. We had data from the
yeah.
first stroke, exactly what protocol we were using to deal with the first stroke, including my own training and all that kind of stuff, but my nutrition, diet, everything. And then after the second one, they're like, okay, now we have more data. What is going on? And to this day, though, so that was 2016, January 2016. To this day, we're many, 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 many miles away. And after the first year and second year, by the fifth year anniversary, I told myself, Bill, I'm done. I don't want to keep talking about the strokes. I'm done with it. I'm over, right? But not true. And as I've listened to many of your guests and many of your YouTube videos and some of the podcasts, like, yeah, sometimes this is just one thing that happened to us in our life. Just like my Army service. It didn't last for a long time. It was only a handful of years, but it was very real. So no need to delete it from my life resume. Just like these strokes, no reason to do that. And then occasionally, and occasionally it'll happen even if I'm on a podcast or I'm on a meeting or something. Guess what? Occasionally a word will disappear. Now I know I'm older now. I'm 61. So I know everyone's, oh, yeah, we all forget words. Well, shh, don't tell anybody. But every once in a while, one of those words is not here. And I'll guarantee you, Bill, it's an artifact. It is an
Mm,
artifact of that first stroke. I know it because I look up in my mental image of that dictionary. And so the white spots are still there. Remember, they are still
mm,
there. The neural network was able to rewire everything
mm,
and I'm fine and fully functional and better than ever, probably. But I'm telling you, there's indelible marks on
mm,
our brain
mm,
that we can understand and appreciate, but we can't ever fix. We don't ever, you can't get rid of it. You can
no,
work around it, right? But you can't get rid of it.
yeah, that's a great answer.
Does that ring true for you? Some of that ring true for you?
It sure does, man. That's a great answer because so for me, the first time, again, they didn't know what caused it. These things happen every so often, no big deal. Go back to work, try and get to business as usual, although they tell you not to. Um, go against doctor's orders. The second one was 6 weeks later, and then it's like,
Wow.
okay, this thing hasn't gone away. It hasn't settled down. It isn't the worst case scenario. It isn't the most unlikely scenario. The one that is going to sometimes they settle down on their own. They stop bleeding. This one is still bleeding. Okay, now all my cognition is gone. You know, my ability to type an email, talk, start, finish sentences all gone. I feel like I'm, living in some kind of like a mushroom trip most of the time. Things are just all over the place, for months, many, many
How long
months.
did that last? How long was that after the
It,
second one?
look, it probably lasted about 5 or 6 months. Yeah. It's just a
Wow.
completely
Oh, my
different
friend.
plane in and out. And sometimes I had clarity and sometimes I was just so zoned out. Like it was just ridiculous. And what was difficult about it was happening when I was when I wasn't expecting it. So it was kind of catching me off guard. And it wasn't enjoyable to say like a mushroom trip might be. It was uh it was annoying and it was in the way of my day or what I was in the middle of doing. And it was like,
Yes.
man, this is not appropriate right now. I don't want to be in this space. And that kind of made it worse. So then the but what I was doing, like you, as soon as I understood that I had um an arteriovenous malformation, like a blood vessel that was not healthy or not in the best shape, etc. What I did was try to control the controllables. So for me, all I could control was what I consumed, how I went about my day, how much effort and time I put into my work. So the amount of hours shrunk. Um, I controlled all those controllables so that by the time uh, we were 3 years down the track, I hadn't done my own words to myself. I hadn't done anything to contribute to the next one personally. If it happens
Right.
again, it happens, but I haven't done something to make it possible for the third one to
Exactly.
occur,
Okay. Okay.
you know?
That's
And
3 years after. And then,
that's almost 3 years after. And then I was going to work because by then I had recovered enough. The blood clot in my head that started about the size of a dime became the size of a golf ball. And then that started to decrease in size. And as it started to decrease in size, more and more of my brain came online um, with the looking after my nutrition, no sugar, no caffeine, no gluten, no dairy, no alcohol. With that, like my body was just in the best shape it had ever been, for
yeah, I
many, many
bet.
years, for 2 decades. And then um, when I got to work and I was having that third sort of those symptoms again, and I sort of knew what was happening. I understood where I was at.
Yeah.
I just accepted it. I just accepted it, and I drove myself to the hospital. I just was matter of fact told them what was happening. You guys do what you got to do, And then my surgeon came in probably a few hours later to check up once she discovered that her patient was back in hospital. And she said, we've
Right.
got to go in and take this out. But I was prepared for it. So I said to her, yep, no worries. And she was a little bit taken aback by the fact that I responded so positively to the possibility of brain surgery. And she came back and checked again later. Are you sure? Are we doing this? Are we going in and taking it out? I said, whatever comes. We have to go in and take it out. The risks of it reoccurring and causing drama are far greater than the likelihood that it's not going to happen again. So now that the risks are far greater and my health is quite good, and I've prepared myself for three
Yeah.
years, like it's the best time to have this surgery. And I remember
Yeah.
being
Excellent.
wheeled into surgery, and they had an intern, an anesthetist who was struggling to find a vein so they can hook me up to the anesthetic. And I was just coaching him through, going, no, you'll find it. You're all right. Just relax. You'll be calm. Don't worry. No, no problem. I'm the best patient you've ever had. I've prepared myself for all these years to be the best patient you've ever had. So you guys are going to do a great job. I'm going to be a great patient. Everything's going to go fine. I had,
Yeah.
I had done, 3 years of meditation almost. I had done, beforehand, I hired a hypnotherapist to come in and take me through the procedure, how my body should respond and react, tell my body what's going to happen, give it a little bit of
Okay.
an insight so that when it gets its head cut open, it doesn't freak out and start bleeding everywhere. Um, I had done everything. So when I turned up, I was expecting an awesome outcome. I was expecting it. There was no other possibility.
Yep.
But
Good. Yes.
cheekily, I had prepared for the worst. One of the mottos that I picked up, it's some dude in the 40s or 50s chucked this motto out there. I think he was from uh, the Emirates or somewhere around there, that part of the world, said,
Okay.
expect the best, prepare for the worst.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that was my motto. So I had
Good.
prepared for the worst, expected the best outcome. I was trying to also coach my loved ones into that
Sure.
phase, into that zone, because they are really highly emotional Greeks. So most of the time, they're not holding their shit together. They're losing their shit about everything. So I had to try and bring everybody with me onto this journey so that if they're calm,
Right.
then I can be calm, and vice versa. And I woke up out of, and what I loved about my surgeon was she was so matter of fact also. So she was just my kind of person. Like, I need information just right between the eyes. I don't give a shit what you're telling me. Don't make me guess. Just give it to me. And I woke up from surgery, and when you have any surgery, they want you to move your bowels. They want you to go to the toilet as soon as possible. And they asked me, have I been yet? I said no. The nurse, who was probably half my size, a real um, small framed Asian lady, comes, I'll help you go to the toilet. Well, what we didn't know then was my left side's not working. And I got
Oh,
out of the bed
whoa.
on my left side where she was. And I stepped
Oh,
out of the
no.
bed. This is not even 12 hours after surgery. And I fell straight to the ground, and I just collapsed in the high, what do they call that ward? The high care ward or something like that. Bang, straight on my ass, screamed, ah! and
Oh,
then um,
God. I
and
hate
then
that.
got back up, got back into my bed, and my surgeon came to check up on me, and she said, "How's things? Where are you at?" I was groggy as hell, and my family was there, and everybody, and they said to her, "He fell out of bed." She freaked out, and she goes, "Why?" And I said, "I can't feel my left side." And she just goes, "Okay, book him into rehab." That was it. That's as much information or detail that she gave. Just book him into rehab as soon as possible. 7 days later, I was in rehab, and that's when the next part of that journey started. So, um, not once did I get fearful of the loss of my life or anything like that. I had put a lot of things in place to make good all of the people who I had wronged, to have my business sorted, uh, and managed and run. I had made good on, relationships with family, loved ones, parents. Everyone had been told they were loved and all that kind of stuff. My finances were in order. The family was going to be really comfortable. There wasn't going to be any debt or any crazy things like that they were going to have to live with if I had to go.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, here we are. And as now that I'm 50, I do contemplate like how long my life will be. Sometimes I do contemplate that, and I try and live from the space of um like just get it done now. Whatever it is that you need to get done, that thing that's on your mind, just get it done, because tomorrow's not promised, right? So it's like, just do it. It's not a fear of tomorrow not being promised. It's just a matter of fact thing. Like, it's true.
Respect.
We're not going to be
Tomorrow
around
is promised to
forever.
no one. That's right.
Yeah. So just go for it. Just get it done. And sometimes I even think about things like whatever pain I'm going through or suffering or whatever. It's like sometimes I even have these weird thoughts like in 30 years, you know, it's all going to be over anyway. So don't worry about it. Like if you get to 80 and you pass out 80, like all that is going to be over. So it won't matter anyway. So you'll be all right. You'll be able to resist it or put up with it for a little bit longer. Just keep going. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely.
And in the last month,
Absolutely.
I've had a really bad left side. My deficits on the left side have been playing up, and they've been
Okay.
way more numb. My muscles have been way tighter. There's been way more pain. And I'm forever kind of wondering what caused it. But I think I had COVID about a month ago, and that's kind of made it a lot worse. And that gets me down
Interesting.
every
Okay.
so often. Like when you're flying and you feel well, and then something comes in and throws a spanner in the works, like you kind of feel, oh, like I don't like this. Why is that happening again? This whole thing and these feelings that I thought were behind me, they're not. They're still there. I tell that part of the story is kind of just to let people know that this guy who appears on the podcast, seems to be doing great and fine and always tells a positive story and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's still the roller coaster ride. It still happens. This is 12 years. In November, it'll be 12 years for me since I had brain surgery. 2014, it will be 10 years since I had brain surgery, and still I live with the whole gamut of experience, emotions, like everything that stroke does. I still live with it. And this, let it go and put it in the past. It is in the past. The events are in the past, but what it does to me in the future is still here. And I have to deal with it every single day. And these podcasts for me are part of my therapy. Like, that's how
Right.
much I need them and how necessary they are. And that's why I love listening to crazy stories for half an hour about what happened to the other person. I can relate.
Right. Well, you did a great job with that. And I'm glad I said then that, for me, after 5 years, I was like, I just wanted it to be done.
Yeah.
And the reality is that it's not going to leave. It was a real thing, and it's still there. And every once in a while, I'm so grateful for all of this. But whenever August 5th, I hurt my knee, injured my knee, one of my knees, and had injured them in the past many times. But it was injured. Here's an interesting thing. So when I
Move a little
injured the knee,
closer
I
to your
knew for
mic.
a fact.
Move a little closer to your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
When I injured the knee, I knew for a fact, there was so much gratitude because I realized, Bill, that, okay, this has nothing to do with those strokes.
Yeah.
And it was very, right. It was a really interesting feeling because I hadn't been, um, it was it was a unique injury and I knew that's what it was for sure. Right. So I was kind of grateful for that. So of course, rehabbed it and used discipline and all that. And, um, but it's really good really good to accept what is, and things are as they not, there's things are as they are, not as you wish them to be or as you want them to be. They are,
That's it.
right?
So true.
So embracing that kind of philosophy really helps.
That's awesome. As
Yeah.
a lawyer, you can understand, right, also probably why some of your colleagues might not tell anybody, because if they rely on their brain to make sure that paperwork is, you know, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and to determine what a piece of law means or how to apply it or the rest of it. And if they can't, if they're perceived as not being able to do it, that's really going to impact their their livelihood and perhaps their practice, etc. And it might put some doubt into people's minds, the clients' minds, as to whether this person is capable of running my business or helping me get through a case or a trial or whatever. Can you sort of see
Right.
that as being a
I can,
legitimate
and
concern?
I'm glad you asked about that, because probably a couple years after, I was curious. I wanted to talk with other lawyers because I thought it was a great, podcast topic, right? I was like, this is a transitional period. Like after the stroke, you're still out there practicing. And I know a lot of people who did what you did, what I did, like you pick the business back up and you reconfigure it, and you're not configuring it to make allocations for whatever deficit you might have. At least I didn't do that. That's what I was doing. I just shut it all down until I figured out what's going on, and then kind of open it back up because I wanted to open it back up again, right? But yeah, the lawyers, and I think it's important to do that. A lawyer should be, just like I think lawyers who are closeted alcoholics or addicts or
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
abusers of one thing or another, or if you've got any kind of addiction, a gambling addiction, or whatever, or you have 15 mistresses or whatever, anything, any choices we
Perception.
make, right? Any choices we make end up can impact the practice. And even though most people aren't choosing strokes, I
Mm.
think choosing to live out loud with them is much better.
Uh-huh.
Because if you try to start to live out loud with them and you can't, if you notice a deficit, if you notice it and you're like, that it's impacting your practice, you have a duty, obligation, responsibility under the law, because you
Mm.
have to remain your level of competency as a lawyer. So there's minimum continuing legal education efforts that you must
Mm.
undertake throughout the globe, around the globe. All lawyer organizations require a minimum amount of continuing legal education, right? So
Mm.
that's for everybody. And when I knocked on the door, the State Bar of California, for example, there was no category that was interested in this. And at the American Bar Association level, there is a top level kind of committee thinking about these things, but it's a very alarming thing to have to invade the privacy of someone because you can't require someone to talk about anything, right?
Mm.
Just like an alcoholic lawyer or not. Some people talk about it, some people don't. But I'm a big advocate for coming out with it, because it is what it is. And I've known lawyers who came they suffered from strokes and it took them out. I mean, they can't function anymore. They have a significantly less ability, mental aptitude to continue to work the way they used to, right? And so they do something else. But the challenge, I think, is to just keep talking about it. So that's why I like this podcast. That's why I like you, and that's why I like same thing with running. Like I run because, and I love the idea of embracing people who want to run after stroke, because not everybody can, right? But a lot of people aspire to do that, even just get movement of some sort, right? But there is something to be celebrated, and your platform is a good one, and it's growing, and thank goodness for that. But I think there's big communities of stroke survivors who relate to, not just because they're strokes, but they're pipe fitters and they're lawyers and they're runners and they're fisher persons and they love to bowl and they're motorcycle riders and they love snakes, and there's all kinds of other hobbies and things we do in life. And I think bringing your stroke awareness and your lived life with respect to the stroke, bringing that alongside and don't hide it,
Mm.
is the better approach. It is for me anyway. So I don't work in a stroke conversation with everybody, but
No.
if I'm picking up signals, if you pick up signals from people, like, it's a safe conversation and it's a good one. And usually it is.
Yeah, that is you know what, it is being acknowledged for something that somebody else might have missed. You can see, the majority of disabilities on in the Western world are as a result of stroke. So when you see somebody who's
Really? That's a legitimate statistic?
that's a
Wow.
legitimate
Okay. The
statistic.
majority of disabilities
Yep.
around the world.
Yeah, in the Western
Oh,
world. So when you see somebody who has a deficit, left side, right side, in a wheelchair, um, limping, an arm that doesn't work properly, something like that. Most the greatest cause of disability is stroke. And a stroke person, I know a stroke person. All we got to do is like walk across them in the street. You know exactly who it is. And because I don't look like I had a stroke, it's difficult to stop somebody and go, hey, how you going, and all that kind of stuff. But still, when I see people who are, for example, in our central business district selling, we have a magazine that's a not-for-profit organization has created this magazine. It's called The Big Issue. And it's and what happens is people who might not be able to work full-time or living hard, living on the street, whatever, they have a way to make some income. So they go buy some magazines, or they sell it on the street in their corner. They get allocated a space, and they make a little bit of revenue. And people just go buy a $7 or $8 magazine, and the person selling it gets half the cost of the magazine. So when you see somebody like that, you can really tell, I can really tell who are the ones who have been injured by some kind of a neurological condition, or have had some kind of a stroke or something like that. And it makes the conversation of buying the magazine more than just, I bought the magazine. You can also then go to them, how long have you been working like this? What have you been up to? What happened to you? You can start a conversation. They're all willing to share. And what I get from people is who are challenged in some way, shape, or form because of life. What I get from them all the time is nobody ever stops to talk. Nobody ever has a conversation. They thank you simply for just sitting there and talking to them, rather than just doing the transaction. Some people who have got a hat out and ask for money, and are looking for a feed, or they're looking to raise some money for accommodation for one night, in some shelter or something. You sit and you chat to them literally for 2 or 3 minutes. They don't say anything else other than thanks for stopping and asking and talking, man. And that's really interesting to me, that's what they need more than the money. They're happy for you to just sit there and have a chat. Even if I didn't buy a magazine from this guy, happy for the chat. Like, it's just ridiculous how much people just need to have a chat. And that's so easy to do. And that's like you. I don't talk at your pace, but I love the sound of my own voice, right? I love talking. I have no problem with it. So it's my favorite thing to do. I'll do it forever, What I want to talk about, though, because I've had a little bit of experience with this, what I want to talk about is, how far have you run? What's the longest distance you've run so far?
The longest distance I've run so far is 50 kilometers, so 32 miles, and in a race. And so I've run a handful of marathons, and I'm doing another 50K in January, and then a 50-miler in April. And these are as aspirational goals in a way, because we have to listen to our body.
Yes.
So but anyway, that's the answer. That's the answer to the question. I'd love to figure out a way to organize some stroke survivors, and I want to call it a stroke run, even if they're not running at all, even if they're just dragging their stumps behind them, like getting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something fun and funny about that, I think. And I've been working on that for a while.
In Australia, there's a Stride for Stroke. The Stroke Foundation has an event which is called Stride for Stroke, and you register to do 5, 10, whatever you want. And some people will ride a recumbent bike or a normal bike or whatever. Some people will run. Some people will walk it, whatever it is. And basically, you nominate how far you're going to go and how you're going to do it. And then you get people to support you, and they raise money for the Stroke Foundation. And it's an annual event, Stride for Stroke. So it's really cool. And you could, do something along those lines. Now, the reason I asked you about running is because recently a friend of mine, the guy who wrote the foreword in my book, Michael Wilkinson, he comes to me and he goes, I'm going to go and run 100 kilometers. And he goes to me, would you support me? Would you come along and support me? And I'm like, dude, of course, I'm going to come and support you. What do I need to do? He goes, I want you to be the guy who turns up, bit of water, food, my gear.
He wants you to crew. He wants
Yeah.
you to be a crew member. He wants you
Yeah.
to
He wants
crew
me to
it.
be a crew
Okay.
member. And I'm like, yeah, man, sure, I can do that. No problem. How far are you going to run? And he goes, 100 kilometers, 62 mile. I'm like, you are insane, bro. What the hell are you doing? But yeah, I'm there for sure. No problem. So a couple of months ago, we went out to a place here in Victoria where I live, and it's along the coast. And we we he's training, he's preparing, and he says, "But I'm never going to run 100 kilometers in preparation for this." He
Of
said
course, of course.
his maximum he had ever run was, I think, 32 mile, 30 miles, something like that. His maximum.
Yeah.
Because so
Yeah.
he had done a
50K.
lot.
Yeah.
He had done a lot of running in the days leading up to it, but he had never run a distance further than about 30,
Yes. Understood. Yeah.
32 mile, or I think 32 mile or 30. It doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Yes. Yeah. That's
It,
50K. Yes.
basically,
Yes.
he
Yes.
had never gone anywhere near 100K. And I'm like, okay, no worries. So how does this work? What do we do? And he said to me, well, we're gonna go there the day before. I'm gonna have my kit. We'll talk through the strategy, what my expectations are, where I'm gonna meet you, the timeline, when I expect to be there, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, sweet, no worries. So we go there,
How many people is going to do this? You by yourself, or are there two crew members?
just me,
Oh, fuck.
because he couldn't ask.
Okay, keep going.
I had no idea. He couldn't ask
Oh,
anyone
shit.
else because everyone else that he knows would have tried to, like, don't do it, man. It's too far. I can't. They would have done the I can't be
You
bothered.
were ride or die. You were the
Yeah.
guy.
And I'm
Good.
like, fucking do it. Don't worry about it. And he loves that about me. That's my attitude. And then he goes, so day before he's taking me through that. I go, so what time are we waking up? It's like 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, oh, okay. 4:30 in the morning. All right, cool. No problem. Are you going to set your alarm? He said, yes. I'm going to also set my alarm for 15 minutes after your alarm in case something goes wrong and we don't wake up. I don't know what. So he's got a massive bowl, a massive container of pasta that he starts eating at about 9 o'clock, and he's going to try and carb up and all that kind of stuff. It's ridiculous. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Pasta with tuna and lentils, like, terrible. And we get up.
Good stuff.
Oh, terrible. We get up the next morning at 4:30, and he gets his kit on, and we drive down to the first site. And basically, my job is to drop him off at the first at the start line, and then drive to the next
Yeah.
stop and
Aid
make
station.
sure I'm there for him and support him and the rest of it. And it's like, cool, no worries. I'm in the car and I'm driving to each location. And, he's done 10 kilometers. Everything's looking great. It's fantastic. He's done 20 kilometers. That's a walk in the park for him. He's done that heaps of times.
Easy,
Everything's
easy.
fine. It's morning. I'm okay. There's thousands of other people in this event running everywhere.
Right, right, right.
And then we go 30 kilometers. He's loving it. He's killing it. He gets to 40 kilometers. Everything's okay. Still doesn't look like a guy who ran 40 kilometers as far as I'm concerned. Like, he looks amazing. Gets to 50 kilometers, the same. But at 50 kilometers, and I'm not saying this to do anything to you, hopefully you think differently. At 50 kilometers, he gets to the 50-kilometer mark, which is the start and stop. And it's the halfway mark, it's the start line, and it's the end.
So he turns around and goes back. It's an out and back. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a loop, right?
Yeah.
And when
he's
it's out
and back. Oh, it's a whole loop. He keeps going and does it again. It doesn't go
it's
out
kind
and
of
come
a loop.
backwards.
You always end up at the same location.
Right.
And then it's not one massive loop. It's not one little loop. It's a massive loop. So you only ever get there.
No, I understand. Yeah, no, 50 is a 50K loop. So you go around to one and then you either keep doing it twice or you go around and you go backwards.
That's it. And what he starts doing is seeing the people who are finishing at 50 and going, I have to do another 50. And he's going, oh my God, they're finishing. And he's been running, for 4 hours already. And then he's thinking, oh man, this is going to be a long day. And I'm meeting the same people every time I'm at a stop. I see the
Right.
same
You're
people.
driving to the next stop and so are they. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're just chatting and the rest of it. And he's getting through the run. And by about 10 o'clock at night, he's got 12 kilometers to go, 10 or 12, something like that, 10 or 12 kilometers to go. And I'm sitting there having a conversation with one of those other crew members for this other person.
Yes, yes, yes.
And the guy goes to me, "How are you? How are you, man?" I'm going, "Man, I am exhausted. I've been walking around trying to get this guy over the line for since 4:30 in the morning. It's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm exhausted." 5 minutes later, my mate turns up and he's just run 89 kilometers or something. And I'm complaining that I'm exhausted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I don't know how he's doing it. I don't know how he's going to do the last few kilometers. I've got no idea. But sure enough, the ability to put his mental state in the zone of this is not a negotiable. You must complete this run. The analogy for me is exactly what we've been through with stroke. The people who are doing it hard, the people who are doing it tough. You don't have an option to stop trying to go for recovery, to stop overcoming your ill health, to stop, finding a solution for the pain. You don't have a choice. You must continue to do that. And I know that this guy volunteered to put himself in that situation, and we didn't. But that's the reality of it is that you must continue the struggle, the lesson, the whatever it is that you need, you must continue to do that. When I asked him why the hell he would run 100 kilometers, he goes, was to put himself into a state of suffering. That's what it was about. And the suffering, when he was in the state of suffering, the suffering was where he was meant to be. And that attitude towards it was what made it possible for him. So when he found himself suffering at 60, 70, 80, 90, he goes, well, this is exactly what you wanted. This is what you signed up for. So you're in exactly where you wanted to be. So just keep going. And he got over the line and he was a mess. He was probably talking like a stroke survivor after the first incident. He had no idea what he was doing in the car. He was cramping up and everything was terrible and he couldn't get comfortable. And I took him to his house. His family was overseas at the time. And I took him to his house and literally just pushed him I didn't push him literally into his bed, but basically I just encouraged him the last step of the way to just get into bed. He got into bed and
Right.
he flaked it. And that was it. He goes, just close the door on the way out. Close the door on my way out. And I left and I went home. And it was seeing him and the amount of people that did it. And we're all above 50. The people that I saw that were running at the end were all above 50.
Yeah.
And just to see them do that and get through and overcome whatever demons they had to overcome to get over the line, just for me was like a massive thing for me to just witness it rather than participate in it,
Yeah.
because I can apply that to my recovery and to my life and to my travels and to all my suffering. It's just, I don't know, it was a profound experience for me and I didn't even run it.
I think you should share that story with people because people don't know about crewing. They don't know that's a thing. And the moment you do ever hear somebody who says to you, I'm going to run this long race. I'm going to do 100 miles. I'm going to do it. Your story would allow people to not be afraid of it and not try to talk them out of it, but instead say, I'm in. How can I help?
Yeah.
Because you're right, like crewing is so important because for the guy, the other thing that happens when you come in, because I had the opportunity to crew a couple months ago, I got to crew for one of my coaches who was doing a 100-mile race. So it was three of us and we crewed and we could only go like I forget how many miles, but anyway, it was all night long. It was crazy. It was interesting, but it was so satisfying for me because when your guy came in and he saw you, he had there's a level of expectation. And so when you just see that alone, that's a jolt of adrenaline. endorphins, and you know what I mean? Because it's another contributor to believing in your brain. It's like,
Mm,
yep, this is going how it's supposed to.
mm, mm.
All good, all good. And you can never really guess with the terrain and the weather and other people and your
Yeah,
gastrointestinal tract and all that, eating all those carbs, whatever, that's good at
yeah,
night before, but later in the day might not be
yeah,
so good, whatever.
yeah. You
So
nailed
he
it.
did
Yeah.
it. So encourage other people to do it, right? Because it's just so cool. I'm glad you had that experience. I'm so
Oh, it was
glad.
so good. One of the first people I interviewed about stroke decided to run a marathon with left side foot drop, and
Impairment.
uh,
Okay.
had a stroke in her when she was a kid. Like I don't know, 10 years old or something. Um,
Oh,
Donna
okay.
Campisi, Donna Campisi. I think it was very early episodes, and she decided in her 40s she was going to run her first marathon. She trained for ages. She got two coaches, the rest of it, and she did it. 40 kilometers took her ages, like 6 hours, 7 hours, something like that, with foot drop. You're not, you're not
Wow.
supposed to be able to do that long of a distance
Yeah.
with foot drop, right? So she did it, and that's the thing. It's like if the people listening here are thinking of doing something ridiculously crazy that should not be possible, that shouldn't be, find a way to get it done. It's going to lift your spirits. It's going to make you feel like you've overcome something and change the way that you see the world. Like, you know what it was for me years ago? Before my strokes, I went and saw Tony Robbins in Melbourne here in Australia. And it's a 4-day event. And one of the things that he does at the end of the first day is he primes you to do a fire walk.
Right. Walk on coals. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm like, how the hell? It's first thing in the morning, day one. And he goes for 12 or 16 hours, Tony Robbins. He's as energetic as you. He's like, he's crazy, the guy. And he goes, at the end of tonight, we're going to walk on coals. Are you insane? I just turned up here. Like, how do you mean I'm going to work on coals? Walk. I've never done anything difficult in my life. I'm going to walk on coals. What are you talking about? And sure enough, he gets you so primed. You get to the front of the line, and I'd say it's about 5 or 6 meters this walk on coals.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And I'm like 15 feet, what, 20 feet, something like that.
Right.
And I'm like, everyone's in line. Thousands of people are in line to walk on coals on these fire pits. There's a whole range of them. And I'm like, okay, so I'm here. Everyone else is doing it. I've got to do it. And you go through what he taught you to say and how to breathe and all that kind of stuff. The guy next to you is priming you as well, and he's getting you ready to go. And just before I step on, he goes, hang on a sec. He goes, let me go and get some more coals. And he goes and gets a wheelbarrow full of bright red coals, and he throws them on the ground, and he pats it down, and then he says, okay, you can go now. I'm like,
Oh my
what the
God.
hell is this? And I go for the walk, and sure enough, I get to the other side, and my feet have not burnt, and nothing's wrong. Nothing's happened to me. The coals were hot. You can feel the the hot the heat like radiating off the coals while you're
Yeah, yeah,
standing
yeah.
there getting ready to go while the guy's putting fresh coals on. And that was the thing for me that sort of changed my mind. It's like, you've done something that you never expected that you would ever do, and you've managed to somehow will your body over the line and make your body understand what needs not happen. You shouldn't get burnt here, so do these things to avoid getting burnt, like play this role. um you know I don't know, change your chemistry, do whatever you need to do to not get burnt while you. And that's kind of
Yeah.
the attitude that I used when I went into surgery. It's like, meditation, it was hypnotherapy, talk to the body, give it some instructions, give it some feedback, tell it what it needs to do. Put in 2.5 years of effort to get it primed and ready. The whole thing kind of like just it shows we're capable of a lot more than we are, and that we can do this. And that's kind of what I want for my stroke survivors who are listening to this. It's like, always, it's be more than somebody else has ever told you you're capable of being. For God's sake, like, I wrote a book and I have a podcast, for God's sake. Like, Do you know what I mean? It's insane.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I do. I do know what you mean. There's over as we get older, I suppose we read and get exposed to a lot of different type of philosophies and approaches to life. But there's one of my favorite little sentiments that I pull out. Um, the runner's speed is his own, yet even so, he is helped by being cheered on. That's from Seneca, his Letters on Ethics 109.6. So I find myself as a cheerleader in so many in so many verticals. And I have always been that guy, always actually. So when it came to me, I found maybe I was reluctant to cheer in a way to cheer for myself, right? But
Mm,
when faced with the strokes and after the strokes, I I don't know if you have any, if there's any version of this in you, but it's not enough for me just to run a marathon. It's not enough for me just to run one. It's almost like getting tattoos. Once you have one, you end up getting a bunch because there's some addictive element to it, I think, right?
yeah.
And people have talked about that a lot. So for me, it was initially doing New York at all, just doing it at all was blew my mind that I could do it. And then I did say, well, could I do it again? And I'm never fast, so I'm not racing for somebody else. My competition is with myself and just showing up, doing the training and finishing. In a way, when you run a race, when you run running races, it's a little bit like a participation award
Mm,
because you just have to finish the race and you get the medal. All you have to do is finish. You have to win.
yeah.
Everybody gets a medal. You have to cross the finish line, but you don't get the medal unless you finish the race, right? So the concept of finishing, committing to the training, doing the entire race, getting that medal, that's very, very satisfying. But for me, there's something about what you just said. Like in my head, I wanted to do, I crew, or I do a lot of volunteering too. So I volunteered at the 92-mile aid station in a 100-mile race last April. Now,
Mm,
for years, I'd already done a lot of long races. I'd done crazy stuff. I did the Tough Ruck in Boston, which is I dressed in all of my military gear and I had a 42-pound rucksack on my back and
wow.
I hiked a marathon. Like, so I've done all kinds of crazy things. Again, not because I was first, just because I wanted to do it and I finished it and got it, right? So I was at the aid station of this 100-mile race last April, and most of the people who are finishing, they're all old. Well, they're older than me. And at the time, I was 60. Yeah, I think I was 60. And the guys coming across the line, there's like, there's probably 30 people that finished this race, this 100-mile race. And the guys coming across the line are all older than me.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, wait a minute. So in that moment, Bill, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I am not done yet. No way. And these guys, I don't know what strokes they had, it didn't matter, but I knew me. I'm like, I'm coming back. I'm going to do that 100-mile race. So that was last April, and I committed to a 100-mile race. And then after that, I got with my coach, and all the coaches like, great, that's great, but let's put the body in the right motion and let's see what happens. So literally got to run a 50K, then a 50 miler. Then after that is a 100K. That's 62 miles. So my goal is I want to run the 62K right before I turn 62 so I can run the number of miles I got in my years, right?
Love it.
And then after that, a couple months later is the 100 miler. But in each instance, I'm glad you said 100K because I was trying to figure out at 50 miles, they don't need a crew. And usually in every race, a long distance race, they usually only let a crew come in. If it's a 100-mile race, they only let crews come in at 100K. So you
Mm.
have to finish 62 miles before you can even have a crew
Oh my
come in, right?
gosh.
For some
Wow.
miles, for some races. Um, for some races. So
Wow.
this one I did in Wisconsin, we were able to come in, I think, at 50K, so 32 miles, right? It finished first 32, 1/3 of the race it finished, and we got the crew. But it was the same thing. We would drive, and basically all the crew, like you did it, just like you did, where all of us were in vans and cars, so we would all show up at the parking lot, all unload our stuff, meet our runner. The runner would come past us, pack our stuff up, get back in the car,
Yeah.
and drive to the next parking lot or wherever it was, right? That's
Yeah.
what you did.
Yeah.
And you do end up meeting and talking with the crew people, the family members and supporters, right?
Yeah.
Very satisfying, very sad. And
Yeah.
then when some runners dropped out, I don't know if you experienced this,
Yeah.
but yeah, there was some runners that I bonded not with the runner, but with the crew, right? And so we just talking, and then their runner was like really in bad way, and so they came in and just finished. And so it was interesting because you don't get to say goodbye to those people. You just
Mm.
really like you just nod and like, whatever, you maybe you'll see them in the next race, right? But it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So it's
It's it,
heartbreaking.
it was such an interesting, profound experience. And like I said, for me, the thing that I've got that is once you've got one, you need to keep going. I think it's the episodes of this podcast. Like I'm trying to get to 1,000 episodes. There's 330 nearly, it's like that would be a good thing to get to 1,000 episodes. I'm not sure if there'll ever be anyone who does 1,000 episodes of podcast with stroke survivors. And that's what I was lacking. I was lacking access to stories, tools, information. And it's like, that's what I want to put out. And I get something from every interview. I learned something from everyone who I've interviewed. So that's kind of my thing. We are probably at the time when we need to wrap up. And what I'd love to
Yeah,
ask,
I'm just following your lead.
yeah,
It's your baby. But this has been great.
it's
What
been good.
stories we've told.
I want to ask the last three questions, which I've started asking.
I'll keep the answer short then.
Okay,
I got you.
yeah.
Go ahead.
um, what was the hardest thing about stroke for you?
The hardest thing about stroke for me ended up being realizing that I there was nothing I could do after the first one. We didn't know how to prevent the second one, and so we didn't prevent the second one. But I was grateful to learn that we really have to pay attention to your body. I had to pay attention to my body. So I'm not in control of many things, only the impressions that I make or the perceptions I have and the influences that come in. So I guard my impressions and be mindful of my opinions and judgments and how I kind of push those things out into the world for me. That's all I can control. So I can't control the body, can't control the brain. I can't control these things. And just as you said, our intake, our nutrition, our exercise, sleep, hydration, all those things are physical things that are critically important, but we're not in control of them. So I guess a hard thing to learn was, I don't know, it was hard. It was just something I had no idea of. I didn't know how much I had to appreciate that I'm not very much in control. I can just keep bringing my body the right kind of nutrients and resources that I can bring to the table, and then be grateful every day. Be mindful and be grateful every single day. No tomorrow is promised for me or
Yeah,
anyone.
yeah. What's something that stroke has taught you?
Oh, I guess I conflated those two questions. So
Yeah,
stroke taught me that there's tomorrow's promised to no one. I
yeah,
need to be right here, right now. I need to listen, to be engaged, and uh, and always be listening. Realize that I'm in control of very few things. I am in control of guarding the impressions I make, and the opinions and judgments that I form on related to the opinions that I have or the impressions of that I take up in the world. That's it. So I'm not really in control of anything else. Everything else is not my business. Really, it's not. So I perfected that. I feel like I've taken the strokes have given me guidance to encourage me, I suppose, on this philosophical path that has ultimately served me very, very well.
beautiful. There's a whole bunch of stroke survivors listening. What would you like to tell them?
If you plan to build an empire, focus inward. You have that much power and control. It's not about what is happening to you from the outside. It's just not. We have a lot of control and power within ourselves, how we think about things. We're in charge of our own opinions and we can guide our perceptions. And so just as Bill started by saying, go in with that surgery with the right mindset. I'm going to thrive. I'm not only going to survive, I'm going to thrive. I have the mental capability, I have the power, the stamina, the education, the love that I've received and that I've given. I am ready for this moment. And I think it's within all of us. You have the capacity to do that. And so I hope you do. And I hope you remember that stroke is a badge of honor. It's something you can thrive with. It's like you've gotten a driver's license in the past. You might have gotten XYZ degrees. You might have had this XYZ experiences. You might have participated in the military campaigns, or you might have volunteered for this or that. Oh, and you also had strokes, right? It's an asset. Stroke is one of your biggest resources. We don't pull it out all the time, but we know a lot about it. And so the greatest thing you can do is probably listen to the next stroke survivor that comes along. And you're not going to know them from their artifacts or from their deficits, right? They might look like someone like me. Sounds and talks like everything's just fine. And it is, but we have to work to get there. And we certainly have to support each other. So thank you, Bill, for asking that question. Thank you for having me on the episode today, too. I love the program. And I'll tell you this, I will definitely cheer you on towards 1,000. We'll reconnect many times between today and then because you've inspired me. I'm really excited about Stroke Run, and you gave me a great idea while we're on the podcast about creating an organization. I want to create a Stroke Run and event, but here's the difference. I'm going to educate and try to bring people in and let them experience being a crew member.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's a 5K, right? Or a 10K, whatever it is, you can sign up to run and not just sign up to volunteer. I want to assign you to be a member of a crew, one of the participants. Can you imagine that? How about that?
Oh,
Would you help me in that regard? If I put together something like that,
I love that.
we can talk about that, right?
I love that. Not only are you signing up to participate as a rider, runner, walker, whatever, but also you're volunteering to crew so that a runner, walker, rider doesn't have to do it on their own if they haven't got anyone to help them.
That means that's right. Every half a mile, depending how long it is, every half a mile or 1 mile, when they start wheeling their way, they're dragging their foot. They are, however, they are being ambulatory to a point where they get to that half-mile mark. That person's crew is right there. It might be comprised of 2 people, 3 people, or even 1 person sometimes, but that's what they need. And they are ready to replenish the water, give them a new pair of socks, put a new smile on their face, switch out their hat, give them a shoulder massage, get them ready to get back on the track and get in the race. Does that sound good? We good with that?
That's
okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll call it the Stroke Run.
Oh, call it the Stroke Run. Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. There will be links to Mark's socials and the website, the Stroke Run website, in the show notes. Thank you for joining me, man, and thanks for the conversation. I really appreciate it.
I've loved it, and I God bless you with your editing skills because this has gone on a long time. But I've enjoyed every minute of it. You're awesome. Your energy is perfect. It comes right through the screen, right through the microphone. It's calming. It's fun. I trust it. I trust you. Okay.
That's a wrap.
Bill.
That's a wrap. Beautiful. Oh my God. Thanks, Mark. Thank you so much, man. Reach out anytime. I'm going to get this up probably about 3 or 4 weeks from now because there's a few in the pipeline. And yeah, just that's it, man. Just thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's lovely. Lovely.
Excellent, man. Excellent. I'll keep in touch. This is a lot of fun. You're giving me inspiration now. I better get the Stroke Run website really crushing it now. We're doing it. I'm gonna create the run. I'm telling you.
Do it. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Let me know. I want to know.
Okay.
I might even come and run in the first one.
Excellent. Okay. Or at least crew. You can crew.
Yeah. I can crew too. 100%. I can definitely crew whether I run or not.
But if you were one of our star athletes, wow, that would be pretty cool too.
Man, you never know. I'd love to consider that. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, good. All right.
Be well.
Take care, man. See you later, Bill. Bye-bye.
That brings us to the end of this episode with Mark Vega. His story of surviving 2 embolic strokes and finding strength in adversity is a powerful reminder of the resilience within us all. Mark's insights into gratitude, mindset, and the importance of staying active are lessons we can all carry forward in our journeys. Before we wrap up, I'd like to ask for your support in a few simple ways. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review on Spotify or iTunes, or like and comment on YouTube. Your feedback not only inspires me to keep going, but also helps others find the podcast and join our growing community. And if you're ready to support the podcast further, consider joining my Patreon at patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke. Together, we can continue to share stories that inspire and connect stroke survivors around the world. Thank you for tuning in today. Be sure to explore the resources available at recoveryafterstroke.com, and remember to grab your copy of The Unexpected Way That Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened via Amazon or recoveryafterstroke.com/book. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, take care and keep moving forward.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gasiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.